Hello. Welcome back. This is the second time I've recorded this video because I forgot my mic the first time. It's been a hot minute since I've done a video. And you can tell. Bear with me. Forgive me. And yeah, let's get into it. So the biggest question, I think, is going to be, it's been almost 2 years, I think. What the heck happened? And that's a multi-part answer to that question. I have not been, or I did not read anything for almost 2 years, about a year and a half, a little bit more than a year and a half. And part of that is for multiple different reasons. So the first of which, and I'll be brief because I am not going to cry, I did lose my oldest cat in August, late August of 2023, about a couple days before my birthday. And he was my reading buddy. He was my soul animal. He was everything that I got up in the morning for, went to work for. I do have a second baby, and he is 16. He just turned 16. So I will be revisiting this again in the next couple years. Hopefully not for the next couple years, but my Raja was my reading buddy. He was attached at the hip everywhere I went in this house. If he could live in my skin, he would have lived in my skin. And having a loss, I am child-free. I don't have any kids. I live alone. And so my animals are my everything. And having a loss of another creature who was so dedicated to being just as close as possible as he could to me, specifically and especially when I was reading. Going through something like that, if you don't own any pets or you're not very close to your pets, it's hard to understand. But those who do and those who are, I think, will be able to understand that very, very well. And so it was a nothing that used to make me happy made me happy anymore. I know that sounds really dark and I know that sounds really dramatic, but all the things that I found joy in doing and experiencing, I couldn't find joy in it anymore for a long time. And that included reading. That included books, it included art, it included everything. Everything. And I think that was definitely the start of it. What were my goals prior to that happening? My goals for my reading were, I had a yearly reading goal for myself of around 100 books a year. I was in the middle of a very long and very deep and intensive reading vlog of the Dresden Files, chronological order from start to finish, everything, graphic novels, short stories, microfictions, novellas, and full novels, everything that he's come out with Dresden Files, I was in the middle of reading from start to finish. I was about halfway through, a little over halfway through of it all, and was really, really enjoying that, really enjoying my time within the Dresden Files. I had stopped at Changes just when that was released, so years and years ago. I had stopped reading because I wanted to wait for more installments to come out, and then by the time I waited for more installments to come out, I got distracted. And so we were coming back to Dresden, and he was my reading buddy through that whole first half of that vlog. He's in some of the clips, and so even now, I can't even really go back and watch some of those clips yet to edit, because it just makes me very, 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 very sad. And I don't want to be very, 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 very sad. I've been very, 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 very sad for a while, and I don't want to be anymore. And that's probably not very healthy. I'm probably dodging a lot of emotions, but you know what? I'll handle that when it comes time. I'll bring that up to my therapist later. So I had that happen. And then just, within the year after that happened, so that was August of 23. And just within the year of that happening, a lot of stuff happened at work. We went downhill really fast when it comes to management and organizational management at my job. I work in healthcare. And it went from 6 people in my department eventually down to me. It went from, the normal 7.5-hour days to 12 to 14-hour days. And that led to a massive, massive burnout in every aspect of my life. And I had stopped reading after Raja passed. And thankfully, I stayed within the book community, stayed within BookTube, and I had started having a lot of really, really, really long and amazing conversations with Tori over at Tori Talks. And we started watching K-dramas shortly before Raja passed. And because we both share a very, very, very strong love of Asian culture, history, language, and storytelling, and everything in all aspects of Asian culture and literature. And so we really connected over that. And we started watching K-dramas, and that really, really helped me sort of detach my brain from everything that was going on and just experience stories in a different medium. And then having the conversations that we would have after we finished either an episode or a whole season or a movie were some of the deepest, most just detailed conversations I have ever had with anyone about characters and arcs and theme and plot and everything involved within stories. And it really helped me stay attached to my love of stories, even if I wasn't reading. And that helped carry me through a lot of that. So Tori, I know you're watching this. Thank you so very much for helping me keep my love of stories alive. I really appreciate that. Going through all that and then experiencing a burnout through work, and our office eventually closed. I started a new job, which is now remote, and I am able to set my own schedule. I answer directly to my doctors, so I don't have a manager, team lead. I don't have an office manager, anything like that. The freedom is amazing, and I was so excited to start, and I was very excited to start this new chapter and open up all these opportunities. And then I realized that I was in the middle of the burnout, and I was so tired all the time. Anybody who's been in the middle of a burnout, I think, will be able to understand and relate. You are tired and exhausted all of the time. It was so hard to even sort of remind myself that there were hobbies that I enjoyed doing. There were things that I wanted to filter in now to my free time and into my day. And I could not find the desire or the energy to even care about those things anymore. And I had to really allow myself to be okay with that. I had to allow myself to recognize and accept that this burnout was not going to last forever, but it was my brain and my body's way of saying, you've been doing too much for too long. We're taking a step back. And that just means that you're not going to be able to consume much. You're not going to be able to do much. And I was not able to do much of anything at all besides sleep a lot and watch a few K-dramas with Tori and talk to her and my best friend and just try to make it through. And I think I can safely say now that I have gotten through that. I have made it through the burnout. I have found that introducing a very regular regime or of like multivitamins and other healthy things that really help boost my energy. Getting back on a very much healthier nutrition plan has helped greatly, and just making healthier and better goals for myself that align with the hobbies that I want to get back into. So that's what we're doing. We have started that again, and it feels wonderful. It feels great. My break in reading was needed. It was organic in that I didn't choose it. I didn't necessarily want it at the time, but the things that were happening in life sort of demanded it, and that's okay. And I struggled for a little bit because I wanted to read, right? I wanted to keep reading Dresden. I wanted to keep going through the books and stuff that I was reading, because I didn't stop purchasing books. I was still going to Barnes & Noble, still excited. I was still excited to read books. It was that every time that I tried, I couldn't stick with it. And a lot of that came from grief. And a lot of that came from a different, just a different overall lifestyle with me and just now my one other cat and one other baby. And I didn't choose the break, but it needed to happen. And I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad that it happened. I think going through and having so much time with Tori to talk about the stories that we were still consuming within the visual medium really reminded me what it was that I love about stories, what type of reader I am, a character-focused reader. I always kind of knew that, but it really solidified itself in the conversations that her and I were having over this past year and a half. Well, almost 2 years now. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful to be able to kind of specify the things that I'm looking for now in my reading, in the books that I choose, and having experienced that time where I couldn't really read much now makes me very grateful for when I find the stories that I like. And I'm very much willing, and I always was, but I'm very much more now willing to say, this book is not working for me right now. I am DNFing or soft DNFing, and I'm moving on to something that I know is going to work better for me and that I am more excited to read right now. Either I'm just not in the right headspace for this at the moment, or the story is just not clicking for me right now, and that's okay. I'm putting it aside, and I'm okay with that. And so I'm allowing myself to be more free with that as well. So then we get into, so what have I read since that break? And I did read one book in on all that. It was a buddy read, and I probably would not have read anything had it not been for a buddy read. But other than that, for that year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half, I read absolutely nothing else. And I have started reading again. So what did I start with? I did start with the new Hunger Games release. And this was, I think, this was late March. I think it was the very last week in March, or whenever it had come out. It was just after it had come out. And I do recommend for anybody who is going through any sort of burnout or reading slump, that if you're trying to find something to get back into, trying to find something to break that slump and break that, that get over that hump, go back into a world that you're familiar with, whether it is a reread. If you don't reread, I can't help you. I don't understand you, but I definitely can't help you. Go back into a world that you are familiar with. Go back to characters that you are familiar with. When you don't have to think so hard about learning new characters, about learning a new magic system or a new world or new plot or new anything. When you can just jump back into characters that are already familiar, a storyline or a plot that's already familiar, it is going to, in my opinion, be so helpful for you to breaking that slump. You're going to remember why you love these characters so much, and you do not have to think so hard And you don't have to put so much energy into learning a brand new cast or figuring out a brand new world. So hop into something that you are familiar with. That really helped me, especially when you're coming off of such a large break like I was myself. I had to sort of reteach my brain how to read. And let me explain that a little bit. I've always been a very, very, very fast reader. Before I went into my medical courses for my healthcare degree, I was taking a creative writing I was going for a creative writing degree and taking creative writing classes, and it came down with editing classes and reading classes. And one of our classes was we were trying to increase our reading speed. How do you do that? Obviously, first you have to figure out what is your reading speed. You have to figure out where your flaws are and what you're good at and what you're not. And one of the exercises that our teacher had us do is she had us partner up, and we had to hold a book in front of our face. And our partner sat in front of us. And we had to read as fast as we could while still comprehending what it is that we were reading. And our partner had to watch our eyes and had to watch and count how many times our eyes started and stopped. Because typically readers will have a very jerky motion to their eyes when they're reading, because we are starting and stopping every word or every other word, every two words. And I felt so bad for my partner because I had been reading for so long and had such a fast reading speed that I had removed that very jerky motion of my eyes, and I was one solid fluid movement. There was nothing to count, and I lost that. I lost that completely. And so reading Sunrise on the Reaping, the new Hunger Games book, I noticed my eyes were very, very, very jerky. And it was distracting to me because I never really experienced that before, because I had been reading for so long, and it was just so natural for my eyes to have that really fluid movement that it was very strange to recognize and notice that my eyes were just starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And I had to grab a bookmark, and I had to hold that bookmark under the line that I was reading so my eyes didn't keep going down and going too fast for now my brain to catch up, because my comprehension now was lower than what it was before. Slower, I should say, not necessarily lower, slower than what it was before, which I find very interesting, and it made a lot of sense. I anticipated it. It was just also very frustrating, very frustrating. So in that aspect, the break definitely changed my reading speed and my comprehension speed, and I have to work back up to that now. I have to work back up to training my eyes, training my brain, and allowing myself the time it takes to get back to where I was. But even after finishing that first book, I noticed that it was already getting better. I noticed it was already improving. My speed was already improving. I've already gotten rid of the bookmark to keep my eyes where they need to be. I don't need that anymore. I do still use it sometimes if I'm noticing that I'm starting to get back to moving too fast and losing that comprehension and having to go back and reread the last couple words. But for the most part, that's gone now. So that was something that was very interesting in picking up my first read of the year. And then after that, I went into Tori's brand new book that she's just released and coming out with. I'm not sure if it will have been released yet before I post this or after I post this, but her new release, Cold Silver, and it is an episodic Western fantasy that is sort of inspired on the old episodic Westerns of our childhood, where you get that overarching storyline between all the characters, but each episode, each novel is going to be a very solid whole story in and of itself, and then you have the, again, overarching story of all the characters within the world. And I got to edit that for her and read that a couple times, which then helped in sort of allowing myself to now really dive into the story, really looking at the continuity and the words and the editing and the grammar, which is something that my brain loves. I love to look at that stuff. And so then that started to help my excitement a little bit more as well. And then she did a readathon. Tori, this whole video is about you. She did a readathon in April where she offered bingo cards for everybody who was participating. And we could either do a 3x3, a 5x5, or a 7x7. And so I thought, I'm just getting back into reading again. I want to push myself, but I don't want to push myself too hard. And I don't want to undermine myself either a little bit. So I didn't want to do a 3x3. I definitely could do a 3x3. I wanted to push myself. I did not want to overwhelm myself with a 7x7. So I chose a 5x5. And I got my bingo. I finished the readathon. I read my 5 books, and that felt great. And one of those books has so far been the top book of the year for me so far. And that's not saying much because I've only read about nine, maybe 10 books by the time this goes up. But having a top read of the year of a 5-star read that I absolutely loved feels weird because it was a memoir, and it's a memoir about a North Korean defector. And saying that you love a memoir about a North Korean defector who's going through and telling you the story of his life that's pretty horrific and pretty horrendous in a lot of aspects, the things that were done to him, the things that he experienced, it feels weird. But I think those who read memoirs will understand when I say that I loved it, and it was heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. It still makes me think, it still makes me feel, and definitely 5-star, even if it wasn't, even if I didn't feel like I needed to rate a memoir 5 stars because it's someone's life, it truly is a 5-star memoir. And finishing that as the last book in April for that readathon was like, okay, now I want more, I need more. And then going into May, which is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is probably my favorite. Again, with my absolute love of Asian culture and again, language and history and architecture and stories and everything else involved in that. I have a whole Asian-inspired shelf in my library, including any translated works or any Asian American or just Asian authors. And so I was like, yes, I get to jump into this. It's one of my favorites and read it for the Heritage Month and pick up some books that I've been wanting to read for a while that I haven't gotten to. They've been looking at me from my shelf and they've been calling to me. And so I have a few of them I've finished so far this month. I hope to get through another 2, but I'm not putting any pressure on myself. If I'm able to get through another audiobook and the physical book that I'm reading, great. If not, that's okay too. And then I'm going to join Tori on a TBR game that she has put together based on a game that Sylvia has put together as well. And I'll put Sylvia's channel in the description down below and Tori's channel as well in the description down below. And we're going to be utilizing a TBR game that is going to allow us to build our monthly TBRs, but also allow us the freedom to either mood read or build that TBR based on mood as well. It's very loose. There's a lot of different choices that we can choose with those. I'm very excited to start that as well. I already have the next month's picked out. Tori helped me with that as well, with the game and whatnot. And then I'll be picking up more editing. And so taking that year off, did it help? Yes, absolutely. It was difficult. It was a lot of, I want to read. I want to dive into this book that I just got. And then when I did, it was, oh, here are all the feels again. Here are all the feelings. And this is not normal because it's different. It looks different than what it ever has in the past 18 years that I had Raja. And then putting things back on the shelf because it was just too different and I'm not ready yet. I can't find the enjoyment in this yet. I can't find the excitement in this anymore. And it's just all kind of laced with sadness and grief. And the break helped with that. Time helps, obviously. Grief is grief, and grief is always weird. and doesn't always go the way that we want or allow what we want, and that's okay too. And so it has made me excited to read again. And it helped staying within the community as well. I did not leave the community. I was still involved in Discord. I was still involved in discussion and talking to people and having showing up on live streams and in other discussion boards and whatnot. So if you're suffering through a burnout or through anything even remotely similar to this, stay within the community, right? Don't leave the community completely. I do think that even if you can't manage to be in the space as much as you want to, or as much as you were at one point, it still helps to have the people within the space to talk to, even if it's just one or two other people. Stay within the space. Allow the excitement, the room to be and to grow as slow as it needs to, or as fast as it can. Allow that its own space. And let yourself have the time that you need, however long that is. If it's 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, don't feel bad about the length of time that your brain or your body needs to find the excitement or the desire again. There is nothing wrong with any of the time that it takes for you to find the things that you love again. And then find the space to allow yourself to love those things again. And be okay with that. Allow yourself to tweak your goals if you need to. Or maybe not necessarily tweak them, but just be less strict about them. So going forward for me, I'm not going to shoot for 100 books a year. I'm going to shoot for however many books I get through. I would like to read a book a week, but if I don't, that's okay. So at most, 52 books for me. If it's less, that's fine too. I hope to follow along with my TBR game that I'm playing to allow myself to continuously feel that different excitement. But again, if I don't finish the books that I choose for my monthly TBR during that month, that's okay too. I will carry them over into the next month. And then allowing yourself to put aside the things that are not bringing you the joy that you need in this space. If you are just coming off of a break or something like me, where it's just coming off of this very long journey through a lot of grief in different aspects. There's grief of losing my cat, and there's grief of losing my job, and then there's the fear of change and everything else that comes with that. If you are just coming off of that, don't put yourself in a position that will put you back there. Allow yourself the freedom to choose the things that's making you happy, and let go of and put aside or put down for now the things that are not. And you can come back to them. There's nothing saying that you can't. Whenever you're either in the right headspace for it or whenever you feel like it, it doesn't matter. That's the whole kind of thing. It doesn't matter. The goals and the rules that we put on ourselves are the goals and the rules that we put on ourselves. And so don't let it matter as much. But yeah, that's where I've been. Goals for BookTube, I guess, is to just come on here whenever I feel like it. I'm not going to make a schedule. I don't want a schedule. I don't want a looming cloud of you must, and if you don't, A, B, C, and D. I don't want that. And so whenever I feel like it, you'll see me, and if I don't, you won't. And I'm okay with that. So, yeah, that's where I've been. I'm doing much better. I'm feeling much better. I am much more excited to dive into all the stories that I've been holding off on for a very long time now. And there are some potential plans in the future going forward for different things, which I'm excited about. I might integrate some of my art on this channel. Anybody who is here from Tori's channel or who has seen me interact with Tori and whatnot may have seen some of the artwork that I did on one of her lives, and I plan on doing some more, and maybe I'll integrate that into some sort of art reading vlog here or there if anybody's interested in that. And even if you're not interested in that, I don't really care. It's my channel. I can do what I want. So there might be some of that coming down the road, and some other things potentially in the far future. So thank you for joining me. This is just a rambly, just chatty video. So I hope you enjoyed. Have you taken any breaks? How did you get through all of that? And are you still potentially in a burnout or not? Have you ever had a burnout before? Have you never experienced anything like this before? In which case, I'm very jealous because it was a doozy. It was a doozy. But thank you for being here. I hope you're having a wonderful, beautiful day. And I will see you in the next video.